How you think your players improve. Meow. How your players actually improve. Yeah. Oh, my knees. Hello, welcome to another video. That's obvious, we're on YouTube. Anyways, we need to talk about potential today because I was messing around on stream, which if you want to mess around with me on stream, not like that. I was messing around on stream today playing my save, which you can check out at the link down in the description. Or if you don't have time, there's a live channel down there that posts edited episodes of the streams so you can catch up and join the live stream whenever you have time. Okay. And we were clicking around in the development training tab, you know, like where you go into development and then training, and then there's like the progress section. And we're like, gee, man, like all this nonsense up here is pretty buggy. Like it looks kind of weird. Like 6 months ago, now all of a sudden it bugs down to that. And now we're at all time, like just weird, crazy stuff happening. And we noticed that a bunch of the numbers were changing. And then when we went back to this screen, things got weird. And when we went back to this screen, things got weird. Everybody got uncomfortable and then we just kind of moved on. Now, I've often struggled with the fact that these graphs right here on the progress section are incredibly annoying and not things that are particularly comfortable. But when I went back as the interesting person that I'm not an interesting person. I am an interested person though. And I went back in here and I was like, why? Why do the numbers look all weird when I come in on development training? Like what is going on when I'm clicking around over here? Why is this thing shrinking all of a sudden? Hey, water is cold. And when I got really interested, I discovered that it's actually very easy to figure out how your player develops. It is also now very easy to take care of your balls. And I'm not talking about being a groundskeeper on a pitch or a field for soccer or football or foosball, which is a lovely sport. And also apparently the way the Germans say soccer or football, or I give up, okay? You know what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about Manscaped. You may have noticed that I have a lot of hair. I have a lot of hair everywhere. And in order to handle that, I use Manscaped, which this is the Lawnmower 3.0. But even though it's really cool, it's got this like light thing and everything. I don't need that anymore. Which is a good thing because I'm pretty sure it just broke. Because the Lawnmower 4.0 is coming out now. It's been cleared for takeoff, if you will. Like you've heard me do Manscaped ads before. I only do ads for companies that I really use, I enjoy, I think are quality. Manscaped is quality. Over 2 million guys use it. And I can get you 20% off and free shipping with code Zealand. You just put code Zealand, link in the description. You get 20% off and free shipping on the Lawnmower 4.0. And you get this whole package that is like the pinnacle of male grooming. Inside the package, you're not just going to get the newest lawnmower, which is now broken on my floor, the old version anyways. You're also going to get the weed whacker, which takes care of the nose, takes care of the ears, wherever else you got hair coming out from. You get ball deodorant. You even get some cool boxer briefs, which I always wear to the grocery store, and nothing else. Been thrown out, but don't do that. It's the best deal in male grooming in the galaxy. Seriously, 20% off. Free shipping. Code Zealand in the description. And Manscaped is still developing. So are your players. Just not as much as you think. But it obviously depends on the player. The issue is that sometimes in your mind, you imagine that players are improving more than they are. Let me show you. What you need to remember as you look at this very fascinating, interesting trick is that this only works while they're on your team. So if the guy's been on your team for 5 minutes, stop yelling at him. Be nice. If the guy's been on your team for 5 years, this is very effective. If they come through your youth intake, you sign them when they're 17, 18, you get a feel for what their trajectory is. This is nice. In a couple years, even 1 year. So these are the players in my save. Let's go to somebody who's been on the team the longest. Let's go to Kevin Barrientos and let's go to development. And we're looking at the training thing and we go to progress. So we are where we were and it's set to last month. Which is just like not right? Even though it says last month, it is showing us all time. But what is interesting is it's not showing us all time down here, right? That's what we want to happen. You literally click this and click all time, and it tells you how much the player has improved, where they've gone down, where they've gone up, and by how much. Not in this dumb graph form that is very hard to internalize visually, but in arrows, which everybody can understand. Literally everybody. Even people that are asking me for FM22 news when none has been released, even they will be able to interpret these arrows. Maybe. Something that's really key when you're looking at this is that just because the arrow doesn't have a number next to it doesn't mean the number hasn't changed. Here's what I mean. We look at Barrientos' jumping reach. It started at 19. There is clearly no number here. It is now at 18. That is because the number you see is the number that they're like closest to, right? And so the way I want you to think about this, and I don't know, you can tell with this, right? I'm not going to be able to explain this to you exactly, but it doesn't go straight from 18 to 19. Like when you see a little arrow going up and it's still at 16, teamwork, right? 17, it's still 17. It went down again, it's still 17. And so attributes are not in the game as 1 to 20. They're in the game as like 1 to 100. There can be a difference in the quality of two players that have 17 first touch, because one could be on the top end of the 17 and one could be on the bottom end of the 17, right? So this is not an exact measurement. I don't know if it's out of 1 to 100. I think it might be, right? You'd have to track how many changes are within 17. I think it might be like 1 to 60, right? Who knows? A lot of people, I'm sure, but you get the idea. There are multiple levels inside of each number. So if you see an up or a down here, that doesn't necessarily mean that the number has not changed. It very conceivably could have changed. It just hasn't changed a full attribute, which means a change like this, like 3, that is a really significant change, right? That's 3 full attributes and maybe then some, but it's already 3 full attributes that it's gone up. When you look at all of these changes for a guy that is now 24 who joined my team 6 years ago, which means he was 18, according to my math. He was 18. And then you look at these changes, right? And which cool is after you have done the progress thing, then you go to the training, it will like show you the full arrows for all time, which can also get annoying. You can reset that by going to last month, or like maybe when he was 20 years old or 21 years old or 23 years old. Like, isn't all that cool? You can see the improvement at each of those levels, but this is not like a gigantic amount of change for a guy that was 5-star potential. What are you doing at the time that we signed it? Excuse me. Headphones. They're always right here. It's cool. And you actually can get a report across the bottom, which is something I've just never pointed out in a video before. You see major overall improvement in physical, mental, and technical ability. And it will give you that for any segment, like over the last 6 months. Over the last 12 months, we've seen no dramatic change in his ability, right? Like that's just not good. And you know, since he was 23, we've seen no dramatic change in his ability. But now we've got a slight, you know, once we hit 22, we can track the significance, the improvement of the player, right? And then once we hit 20, and then once we go all time, all of a sudden we're at major for everything. You can track at what point the player was developing a lot, a little, and you can actually relate that to how you were playing the player, whether they were on loan, your facilities, changes in your coaching staff, to see what caused a serious uptick. It also helps you figure out when players grow overall as a trend. Let's look at another one. This is Thomas Isgren. This is a center back who also on my team, 5-star potential at the time we signed him, and we signed him in 2028, so 3 years ago. What we can look at is the last 12 months where there's been no really dramatic change, but then we go back the last 2 years, it was that second season that we saw a pretty ridiculous amount of change, and there wasn't actually a ton of change in his first season, which is interesting. And then we can look at his history and be like, well, he started getting legitimate first team playing time in that second season, starting 28 games in the league. You can see that giant uptick of him as a player, you know, 2 years ago. That's when he just hit the nitrous and became kind of the player that he is now, because, you know, in the last 12 months, we've seen only a slight overall improvement in his mental ability. And while we've seen some solid improvement across the board, nothing dramatic in the last 12 months, which is, you know, it might be slowing down for him. Obviously, that's one application of this. Another application of this is to educate the way that you sign players in the future. Because let's look at another 5-star superstar, Ja Silva, somebody who is just absolutely beloved. We signed him when he was 16 years old. He was a 5-star potential player. He's turned into a Portuguese national team player with 5 caps at 21 years old. And this is it. This is how much he's improved in the last 5 years. So when you look at that, and every player is different, but this is a guy with ideal circumstances starting games at a Liga NOS level since he was 16 years old, with potential to be a very good player. At least as a mid-table Liga NOS team, he had 5-star potential for us, and potential is notoriously fickle in FM21. It is going to be that way in FM22 and beyond. Most of the time, if somebody has a hole in their game and you don't really focus on it, it's going to be really hard to remove. That hole in their game is still going to be there. So when you look at the stars and you go, oh my God, look at this guy, right? Look at the attributes and really look at the attributes and go, hey, if I apply intense training to that, could I change it, right? On an 18, a 19-year-old. If I apply intense training to that, and the most we've seen as I've gone through my team here is like 4. Let me show you another example. He Shin, who's got high level potential in Liga NOS, but he's not like a world-class potential player. He's been on the team for 5 years as well. We spent all of our time training passing because he had 17 vision and 10 passing. It went up 4, right? And that is a player that we got our hands on when he was 18 years old. He's now 23 and he's kind of milked out all that potential. That's basically what you're able to do in that situation. If they're coming in through your youth intake, you could be talking a 5, a 6, a ridiculous 7, but that's what's there. So you've got to look. This is the education out of this. You've got to look at the attributes of the players and do a rundown of, if, you know, I make a lot of these go up 2 or 3 in a great situation where they have a lot of potential, you'll get a lot of attributes going up at least 1, 2, or 3. What's the player going to look like? Right? You're not going to get a lot of 3s. If you focus on something and you get a 4 or a 5 in improvement over 4 or 5 years, what are they going to look like? Are they still going to be class? And I'm talking about when you're picking up those 18-year-olds, because that's usually when you're signing your Wonder Kids. If you're lucky, you'll get 1 or 2 through the youth intake, or you'll find somebody in an EU nation that can move immediately at 16 or 17 years old, and you'll be able to add a little bit more to that. But when you look at great play, wait, what are you doing here? Never mind. Sorry about that. But when you look at a player, take stock of what they are, because even if you sign Petr Todorov at 17 years old, by the time that he's 21, this is the improvement, right? He hasn't transcended to a whole new level of play. He is who he is. We focused passing and now he's a 16-16 there, but you know, it's not like he became a speed demon. It's not like he's ever going to have amazing ball control or be an amazing finisher, right? He's never going to be a world-class defender. Like, Busquets can be a great player, right? But if I take him and try and make him do quickness training for his entire life, he's just never going to be that fast. Get it? Just because everybody likes seeing arrows, this is the best one on my team. This makes you find new heroes, like people that you look at and you go, wow, I respect you. And this guy, oh, this is the best case scenario. Signed at 18, he is now 22, and he's improved like a madman. We focused on his intelligence, his off-the-ball stuff, that decision, that off-ball improvement, and an absolute nemesis. Terrifyingly good. And that improvement, I literally could stare at this all day. It releases those, you know, endorphins or whatever. I just feel good. You just feel good looking at this. Tell me you don't feel amazing looking at this. My God, it's so beautiful. Now, you could think of a lot of interesting applications for this, I'm sure, that I haven't mentioned, because I don't want to make this video an hour long with me talking about every way that you can track the development in different positions for players. Actually, here, let's make a list. You could track the development speed for players in different positions. Look at goalkeepers as compared to defenders and wings and strikers when they develop and those sorts of things. This is something in an experiment that I'll definitely look to do at the end of this save, is get a feel for how much those guys developed, you know, over the course of time when that development kicked in, even when we've got our world-class facilities and everything. You can look at how effective loans are, right? You loan a guy out for a year and bring him back, you're going to be able to see that progress on that player, and it's going to be really helpful. Maybe a loan's not helping somebody, or if you want to see if a loan is helping somebody. Cool. That's 2 things on a list. I think we're done. It's one of my shorter lists, but to be fair, I also mentioned a couple of other things in this video. It just feels weird. We need a third thing. Players are who they are. The archetype of the player is not going to change. Okay, now we're done. Go forth and use your newfound knowledge to shake up the world. You now know exactly how much a player has improved or not improved since they joined your team. You can also just use it to set off a 4-alarm fire, which I'm going to do now, where this guy has just gotten worse since he got here. What is wrong with you, Alejandro? God, I still love you. He's got like an 8.4 rating this year. Ay, Dios mío, why do you do this to me? Sorry, I gotta go. I'll see you in another video. Alejandro! He's 20 years old. What is that?